I stared at Adam's phone, my fingers hovering over the screen. The text from his mother glowed accusingly. Found the perfect property, darling. 4 bedrooms upstairs for us, plus that mother-in-law suite we discussed. Lauren will come around once she sees it. My name is Lauren, and I wasn't going to come around to anything. The living room suddenly felt too small, the walls of our apartment closing in like a trap. 3 years of marriage, and somehow I'd missed the signs that my mother-in-law was plotting to merge our households into some twisted multi-generational nightmare. "Hey, babe," Adam's voice drifted from the kitchen. "Have you seen my phone?" I took a screenshot and sent it to myself before placing his phone back on the coffee table. "It's out here." He appeared in the doorway, dish towel in hand, wearing that easy smile that usually made my heart skip. Now it just made my stomach turn. "Thanks. Mom's been trying to reach me about something." "Oh? Anything interesting?" He grabbed his phone, scrolling through messages. I watched his face, waiting for any flicker of guilt or hesitation. Nothing. Just that same pleasant mask he wore whenever he was about to lie to me. Just some real estate stuff she's looking into. Actually. He sat down beside me, close enough that our thighs touched. "I've been meaning to talk to you about that. Mom's thinking about downsizing." "Downsizing into our lives, you mean?" His smile faltered. "It's not like that. She's just floating ideas about pooling our resources. Think about it. We could afford a much nicer place if we combined households." I stood up, needing distance. "When exactly were you planning to consult me about this life-changing decision?" "Lauren, come on. It's just an idea at this stage. An idea you and your mother have clearly been discussing for a while." I pulled out my phone, pulled up the screenshot, and held it in front of his face. "Mother-in-law's suite you discussed? When exactly did that discussion happen, Adam?" Colour drained from his face. "You went through my phone? Don't you dare make this about privacy when you've been planning to ambush me with your mother as a permanent house guest." He ran his hands through his hair, a nervous habit I used to find endearing. "It's not an ambush. Mom's lonely since Dad died, and she's not getting any younger. We have to think about the future." "Our future or her future?" "They're connected, Lauren. She's family." I laughed, but there was no humour in it. "Funny how family only matters when it's your side of it. Remember when my dad offered you that position at his company? You turned it down because you didn't want to seem dependent on my family. But moving in with your mother? That's totally different, right?" "That's not fair." "No, what's not fair is you and Evelyn making plans behind my back. What's not fair is you knowing exactly how I'd feel about this and trying to manipulate me into it anyway." My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah asking if we were still on for coffee tomorrow. Perfect timing. I needed to talk to someone who wasn't drowning in the Kool-Aid of Evelyn's manipulation. "I'm going out," I announced, grabbing my keys. "Lauren, wait. We need to talk about this." "No. What you need to do is decide whether you're my husband or your mother's son, because right now you're failing spectacularly at being both." I slammed the door behind me, my hands shaking as I pressed the elevator button. 3 years of marriage, and I'd just discovered I was in a 3-way relationship with my husband and his mother. As the elevator descended, I pulled out my phone and texted Sarah. "Coffee tomorrow isn't going to cut it. Wine tonight, emergency." Her response was immediate. Doors open, bottles ready. At least someone in my life had their priorities straight. Sarah's wine-fueled advice from last night still echoed in my head when the doorbell rang at 9 a.m. Through the peephole, I saw Evelyn's perfectly coiffed silver hair and practiced smile. Of course she'd show up unannounced. Of course she'd ignore the 3 unanswered calls from last night. I opened the door, channeling every ounce of corporate politeness I'd learned from my father. "Evelyn." What a surprise. "Lauren, darling." She breezed past me, designer handbags swinging, her perfume leaving a suffocating trail. "I brought those property listings I mentioned to Adam." "Where is my boy?" "At work, where I should be in 30 minutes. She settled onto our couch like she was auditioning for a throne. "Perfect timing then. We can have a little girl talk." Her eyes swept the living room, lingering on the wine glasses Sarah and I had left out. "Though perhaps you should have some coffee first. You look tired." I remained standing. I appreciate you stopping by, but Adam and I haven't finished discussing the housing situation. Oh, but that's why I'm here. She pulled out a thick folder. I've done all the research for you both. This way you don't have to worry your pretty head about the details. The condescension in her voice made my teeth ache. Actually, I do need to worry about the details. It's my life we're talking about. Our lives, dear. Family means thinking beyond ourselves. She patted the couch beside her. Come, sit. Let me show you this gorgeous property in Cedar Hills. The mother-in-law suite has its own entrance, so you'll barely know I'm there. I checked my watch. I really need to get ready for work. Still climbing that corporate ladder? She clicked her tongue. You know, Adam mentions how much he misses home-cooked meals. If we lived together, I could teach you some of his favourites. He practically lived on my pot roast in college. Adam's a grown man who can cook his own meals. I moved toward the door, making my exit strategy clear. And I'm a grown woman who can make her own housing decisions. She stood, clutching her folder like a shield. Lauren, dear, I know you think you're protecting your independence, but marriage is about compromise, about family. Funny, I thought marriage was about partnership and respect. The door opened behind me, and Adam walked in, still in his running clothes. His eyes darted between us, that familiar conflict avoidance expression settling on his face. Mom? What are you doing here? Showing Lauren those properties we discussed. She moved to hug him, shooting me a triumphant look over his shoulder. The one in Cedar Hills is perfect, darling, just like we talked about. I watched my husband's face, waiting for him to correct her, to mention our argument, to show any sign of backbone. Instead, he smiled weakly. Mom, maybe now isn't the best time. Nonsense. Lauren and I were having a lovely chat. She turned to me. Weren't we, dear? The lie sat there, daring me to challenge it. I grabbed my work bag instead. I'm late for a meeting. Adam, we'll talk later. Lauren, he started, but I was already out the door. In the elevator, my phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. How's the morning after? Ready to set boundaries? I typed back, too late. Hurricane Evelyn just made landfall, with property listings. Sarah's response was immediate. That witch moves fast. Want me to accidentally spill coffee on her at that cafe she likes. Despite everything, I smiled. Then another text came through, this one from my father. Monthly review meeting moved to 10 a.m. Bring the Thompson account numbers. I stared at my father's message, an idea forming. Adam had turned down that job offer because he didn't want to seem dependent on my family. But maybe it was time to use every advantage I had. After all, Evelyn wasn't the only one who could play the long game. I texted back, see you at 10. And Dad, can we talk after? I need your advice on something. Two could play at this game of family loyalty. And unlike Evelyn, I actually had something worth offering, besides pot roast recipes and guilt trips. The realtor's business card fell from Adam's jacket pocket while I was doing laundry. Monica Chen, Cedar Hills Luxury Properties. 3 missed calls from her number lit up his phone when I checked. My hands trembled as I pulled up his calendar. Every Tuesday lunch hour for the past month, blocked off as client meetings. I'd married a liar. The front door clicked open. I stayed in the laundry room, listening to Adam's footsteps, the rustle of his briefcase hitting the counter, the familiar rhythm of his after-work routine. Everything so normal. Everything a lie. Lauren, he called out, you home? I stepped into the kitchen, Monica Chen's card between my fingers. How's Monica? His face went blank, then shifted through confusion, recognition, and finally settled on guilt. I can explain. Please do. Explain why you've been house hunting with your mother behind my back. It's not like that. Mom asked me to look at a few properties. For a month? Every Tuesday? He loosened his tie, buying time. I was going to tell you once we found the right place. Something you'd love. Something I'd love. The laugh that escaped me didn't sound like my voice at all. You mean something that would make it harder for me to say no? Were you planning to ambush me with a perfect house, hoping I'd be too impressed to remember I never wanted this in the first place? Lauren, please, did Monica show you that mother-in-law suite Evelyn's so excited about? The one with its own entrance, so I'll barely know she's there? His eyes widened. You talked to my mother about this? Oh, you mean during her surprise visit this morning? The one where she brought property listings and criticized my cooking? Yeah, we had a lovely chat about your favorite pot roast. Adam slumped against the counter. I'm trying to make everyone happy here. Everyone except me. I pulled out my phone, scrolling to the photos I'd taken earlier. Want to see what I found today? The mortgage pre-approval letter in your email, the floor plans you and Evelyn have been discussing, the furniture catalogue with your mother's notes about what would look good in our new living room. Each revelation hit him like a physical blow. You went through my email. Funny how that bothers you more than lying to your wife for a month. I wasn't lying, I was... He ran his hands through his hair. Mom's lonely. She's not getting younger. She needs us. No, she needs control. And you're giving it to her at the expense of our marriage. That's not fair. Fair? I slapped the realtor's card on the counter. You know what's not fair? Planning a future that affects my life without including me in the discussion. Making decisions about our marriage with your mother instead of your wife. Lying to my face every Tuesday while you played house with Monica Chen. His phone buzzed, Evelyn's face lighting up the screen. Of course. Go ahead, I said. Answer it. Tell her how unreasonable I'm being. Tell her how I snooped through your things and ruined the surprise. I'm sure she'll have plenty to say about that. Lauren, stop. Let's just talk about this. We're past talking. We're at the point where you need to choose. Are you my husband or her son? Because right now, you're failing at both. I grabbed my keys and bag, already dialing Sarah's number as I headed for the door. Where are you going? Adam called after me. To look at apartments, ones without mother-in-law suites. His phone kept buzzing as I left. I imagined Evelyn's fury when she learned her perfect plan was unraveling. The thought should have given me satisfaction, but all I felt was a hollow ache where trust used to live. Sarah answered on the first ring. What's wrong? Remember when you said I needed to set boundaries? I stepped into the elevator, watching the doors close on my married life. I think I just burned them all down instead. Good, she said firmly. Now let's build some new ones, starting with that spare room I just cleaned out. As the elevator descended, I thought about my father's offer from this morning, the executive position still open in his Singapore office. Adam had made his choice. Maybe it was time I made mine. 3 days at Sarah's apartment had given me enough clarity to return home and pack properly. I hadn't expected to find Evelyn already there, sitting at my kitchen table like she owned it. Adam stood by the window, his posture screaming defeat. Lauren, darling. Evelyn's smile was razor sharp. We've been waiting for you. My house keys clattered against the counter. How did you get in? I gave her a key, Adam said quietly, for emergencies. Of course he had. I moved toward our bedroom, but Evelyn's voice stopped me. We need to talk about your behavior. My behavior. Going through Adam's private communications, making accusations, running away to that friend of yours. She clicked her tongue. It's not healthy, dear. I looked at Adam, waiting for him to defend me. He stared at the floor. I've spoken with Dr. Richards, Evelyn continued. He's an excellent family therapist. Your father-in-law struggled with anxiety too, you know, before he passed. Sometimes we don't realize how our fears affect our judgment. The pieces clicked together. You're trying to make me sound unstable. We're trying to help you, dear. Adams told me how emotional you've been lately. The paranoia about our housing discussions, the accusations of conspiracy. I turned to Adam. Is that what you've been telling her? He finally met my eyes. Mom's worried about you. We both are. Worried enough to give her a key without telling me? To discuss my mental health behind my back? See, Evelyn gestured toward me. This defensive behavior, these persecution delusions. Get out. My voice was steel. Lauren, both of you, get out of my house. Evelyn stood clutching her designer handbag like a shield. Adam, darling, perhaps we should... No. I pulled out my phone. Either you leave now, or I call the police and report you for breaking and entering. I have a key, Evelyn said smugly, given to you without the knowledge or consent of one of the legal residents. Try explaining that to the officers. Adam stepped forward. Lauren, you're overreacting. Am I? Because from where I'm standing, my husband gave his mother unauthorized access to our home and then conspired with her to make me sound mentally unstable. What's next? Having me committed so you can move her in while I'm gone. The flash of guilt across their faces stopped my heart. Oh my God. I backed away from them. You actually considered it. Not like that, Adam protested. Mom just mentioned that if you needed help. If you don't leave right now, I said, my finger hovering over the emergency dial. I'm calling both the police and my father's lawyers. Your choice. Evelyn gathered her dignity around her like a cloak. We're trying to help you, dear. When you're thinking more clearly. Now, they left. Evelyn first. Adam lingering in the doorway. Lauren, please! I slammed the door in his face and doubled over, fighting for breath. My phone buzzed, a text from Sarah. Everything okay? You've been gone a while? With shaking fingers, I replied, Need you to come over. Bring boxes. Lots of them. Then I called my father. Lauren? He answered on the first ring. I was just about to call you about that Singapore position. Dad. My voice cracked. Remember when you said I could always come home if I needed to? A pause. Then, I'll send the car. Pack what you need for now. We'll handle the rest later. I looked around the apartment, my home for 3 years, now tainted by betrayal. On the kitchen table, Evelyn had left a business card. Dr. Richards, family counselling. I flipped it over. She'd written on the back, For your own good, dear. My phone buzzed again. Adam, please come home. We can talk about this. I typed back, You're right. I am emotional. Emotional enough to make sure everyone knows exactly what you and your mother planned, starting with your boss. Then I blocked his number and started packing. Some things didn't need family therapy to fix. Some things just needed a clean break and a one-way ticket to Singapore. Michael cornered me in the office parking garage 3 days after I'd moved into my father's guest house. Lauren, wait, please. I kept walking, but he matched my stride. Whatever Adam told you. He didn't send me. Michael stepped in front of my car door. But I know what they were planning. The intervention, the therapy, all of it. My hand tightened around my keys and move. You need to know something. Evelyn's been talking to Human Resources. She's building a case about your mental state affecting your work performance. The world tilted sideways. What? She's friends with Janet in HR. They're documenting every time you've been late, every meeting you've missed, trying to establish a pattern of erratic behavior. I thought of the times I'd rushed to work after Evelyn's surprise visits, the meetings I'd rescheduled while dealing with Adam's deceptions. How long have you known? I overheard them last week at Adam's birthday dinner, the one you missed because you were being difficult. He made air quotes, his face grim. That's when I realized how far this had gone. And you're telling me this now because? Because I saw the paperwork on Janet's desk this morning. They're building grounds for a psychiatric evaluation. Adam's already signed something. My stomach lurched. I fumbled with my phone, pulling up my father's number. Don't! Michael grabbed my wrist. They're watching your communications with your father. Any reaction plays into their narrative of you being unstable. I jerked away from him. Why should I trust you? Because I've known Adam since college and I've never seen him like this. Evelyn's got him convinced she's protecting you from yourself. He actually believes it. My phone buzzed. A text from Adam. Can we talk? Mom's worried about your relationship with your father, says it might not be healthy. Another buzz. Evelyn. Darling, Dr. Richards has an opening tomorrow. Adam and I will pick you up. Delete those, Michael said quietly. Delete everything. Get a new phone, new email. They're documenting everything. I stared at the messages, seeing them with new eyes. Every response could be twisted, every reaction used against me. Why are you helping me? Because I watched Evelyn do this to Adam's father. The concerns about his mental health, the documented episodes, the family therapy that turned into residential treatment. By the time he died, she had control of everything. Cold clarity washed over me. She's not getting control of me. No, Michael agreed. But you need to be smart about this. I have copies of emails between Evelyn and Janet. Text messages about their plans. Adam doesn't know I have them. Evidence, I breathed. Enough to take to the board. But you need to wait. Let them think they're winning. The moment they feel threatened, they'll accelerate their plans. I met his eyes. Why didn't Adam ever tell me about his father? Because he doesn't remember it the way it really happened. Evelyn's very good at rewriting history. My phone buzzed again. Sarah. Emergency. Adam just showed up at my place looking for you. Evelyn's with him. They're talking about some intervention. Go, Michael said. I'll handle them here, but Lauren? He handed me a USB drive. Be careful who you trust. Even your father's company isn't safe until we expose this. I took the drive, feeling its weight like a lifeline. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The worst is coming. Are you ready for that? I thought of Adam's betrayal, of Evelyn's schemes, of the life they'd tried to steal from me. They want to paint me as unstable? Fine. Let's show them what real instability looks like. Michael's smile was grim. Now you're thinking like someone who wants to win instead of just survive. I got in my car, already planning my next move. Evelyn thought she was playing chess, but she'd forgotten one crucial detail. In my father's company, I'd learned to play the long game too. And I had nothing left to lose. Time to show them exactly who they were dealing with. The board meeting was supposed to be my moment of triumph. Instead, I stood frozen as Evelyn walked in beside my father, both of them wearing matching expressions of concern. Lauren, Dad said softly, sit down, sweetheart. The USB drive felt heavy in my pocket. Michael's evidence, all the carefully gathered proof of Evelyn's manipulation, suddenly seemed childish. Amateur. Because there she sat, perfectly composed, while Janet from HR distributed thick folders to each board member. As you can see, Evelyn began, her voice dripping with maternal concern, the pattern of erratic behavior has escalated significantly. I looked at my father. Dad, let them finish, Lauren. His eyes were tired, disappointed. Janet clicked through a PowerPoint presentation, screenshots of my texts to Adam, emails to Sarah about Evelyn's schemes, my browser history researching gaslighting and psychological manipulation. All of it twisted, reframed, transformed into evidence of paranoid delusions. The stress of her position, combined with these conspiracy theories about her mother-in-law, Janet paused meaningfully. We're concerned about liability. This is insane. I pulled out the USB drive. I have proof. Of what, dear? Evelyn's smile was gentle, practiced. That I wanted to help my family stay close? That I worried about you working too hard, pushing yourself too far? You manipulated Adam, just like you did to his father. Lauren. Dad's sharp tone cut through the room. That's enough. I looked around the table at faces I'd known for years, people who'd watched me grow up in this company, all of them carefully avoiding my eyes. We've spoken with Dr. Richards, Evelyn continued. He's recommended immediate stress leave, followed by a comprehensive evaluation. The pieces clicked together. You're forcing me out. We're helping you, Dad said. Before you do something you can't take back. I laughed, the sound brittle, like expose how Evelyn manipulated her way into controlling her husband's medical decisions, like revealing how she's doing the same thing to Adam. You see? Evelyn's voice trembled perfectly. These paranoid accusations, these conspiracy theories. Tom, it's exactly what we discussed. Dad nodded slowly. Lauren, either you take voluntary leave and get help, or the board will have to consider more permanent solutions. You believe her? I stared at my father, this man who'd taught me everything I knew about business, about standing my ground. After everything, I believe you're not well. He wouldn't meet my eyes. And I believe I failed you by not seeing it sooner. The betrayal hit like a physical blow. I looked at Michael's empty chair, understanding too late. He'd never intended to help me. This had all been part of their plan, letting me think I had evidence, letting me walk into this meeting thinking I could win. Fine. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly. You want me gone? I'm gone. Lauren, please. Dad reached for me. Let us help. Help? I yanked away from him. Like you helped Adam's father? How did that work out for him, Evelyn? For just a moment, her mask slipped. Something cold and calculating flashed in her eyes. Security will escort you out, Janet said smoothly. Your personal items will be forwarded to your father's address. I looked at each face around the table, memorizing them. You know what the funny thing is? You actually think you've won. Lauren, Dad started. I quit. I pulled off my badge, letting it clatter onto the table. And when this all falls apart, when she turns on you like she turns on everyone, remember this moment. Remember you chose this. Security waited by the door. Professional, efficient, ready to remove the unstable element from the equation. I walked out with my head high, Evelyn's voice drifting after me. Poor dear. At least now she can get the help she needs. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone and sent one text to an unlisted number. Plan B. Then I deleted everything, just like Michael had suggested. He'd been right about one thing. I needed to be smart about this. Let them think they'd won. Let them think they'd broken me. They had no idea what I was capable of when I had nothing left to lose. The Singapore contract sat unsigned on my hotel desk when Adam's text arrived. We need to talk. Alone. No lawyers. 3 months of silence. And now he wanted to talk. I checked the time. 2 hours until the board meeting where my father would announce Evelyn's appointment as Chief Operations Officer. 2 hours before they thought they'd won completely. I met Adam at our old coffee shop. He looked terrible, thin, unshaven, with dark circles under his eyes. You're going to Singapore, he said. Not a question. Funny how news travels. I stirred my untouched coffee. Even to people who've blocked my number. Lauren, please, whatever you're planning. Planning, I smiled. I'm doing exactly what everyone wanted. Getting help, starting fresh, leaving the country. Isn't that the story? His hands shook slightly. Mum's been going through Dad's old medical records. Fascinating hobby. She's changing things, rewriting history. And now, with your father's company, he swallowed hard. I found documents on her computer, plans for restructuring, layoffs. She's going to gut everything once she's COO. I know. He blinked. What? I pulled out my phone, showing him the screen. Emails, bank records, medical documents, all meticulously gathered over 3 months by the private investigator I'd hired. The real reason for my unstable spending that Janet had so carefully documented. Your mother's not the only one who knows how to play the long game. But the board meeting starts in an hour, where your mother will accept her promotion in front of the press, major shareholders, and 2 federal investigators who are very interested in fraudulent medical records and embezzlement. The colour drained from his face. You planned this. No, Adam. Your mother planned this. I'm just better at it. I stood up. You should call your lawyer. He grabbed my wrist. Lauren, wait, I'm sorry for everything. I should have... Should have what? Believed me? Protected me? Been an actual husband instead of your mother's puppet? I pulled away. You're right. You should have. But you didn't. What happens now? Now? Your mother gets arrested for fraud. The company discovers mysterious accounting irregularities under her brief supervision. My father's reputation stays intact because he was deceived by a trusted employee. And you, I smiled. You get to explain to the investigators why your signature is on all those falsified documents. You're destroying us. No, I'm giving you exactly what you wanted, a chance to stay close to your mother. I hear prison visiting hours are very regular. His phone buzzed. Evelyn probably wondering why he wasn't at the office yet. Always keeping tabs, always pulling strings. One more thing, I said, reaching for my bag. Remember Dad's job offer? The one you turned down because you didn't want handouts? Turns out your mother convinced you to refuse because she was already embezzling from her last victim. Couldn't risk you getting too close to the books. Lauren, goodbye, Adam. Give your mother my best. I'm sure orange will suit her perfectly. I walked out into the sunlight, checking my watch. 45 minutes until the board meeting. My phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. Investigators in position. Press tipped off. Ready? I thought about Evelyn's smug smile in that last board meeting. About my father's disappointment. About Adam's betrayal. About all the careful, quiet moments of destruction they'd planned for me. Ready, I typed back. Then I added, save me a seat. I want to watch her face when she realizes nice girls don't always finish last. I flagged down a taxi to the office. My Singapore contract could wait another day. First, I had a front row seat to karma, and I wasn't going to miss a single moment. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just surviving, it's thriving, and making sure everyone who tried to break you has to watch. The Singapore skyline glittered through my office window as I reviewed the morning headlines. Tech CEO's wife sentenced in fraud case. The article featured Evelyn's booking photo, her perfect mask finally cracked, showing the desperation beneath. My phone buzzed. Sarah sending another article. Former executive Adam Chen accepts plea deal. She added, karma's a better revenge than we ever could be. A knock at my door interrupted my response. Miss Chen, your father's here. I'd kept my married name, a small reminder of everything I'd survived. Send him in. Dad looked older now, the past 6 months etched into new lines around his eyes. He carried a familiar folder, the one Evelyn had used in that last board meeting. The investigators finished their final report, he said, placing it on my desk. Thought you should see it first. I didn't open it. How many years did she get? 8. Adam took a deal for 18 months. He sat heavily. Lauren, if I had known. You believed what she wanted you to believe. We all did for a while. Not you. I had more to lose. I gestured at the Singapore office, my new team visible through the glass walls. Or more to gain, depending on how you look at it. He smiled slightly. The board wants you to come home, take over operations now that I am home. I met his eyes. Sometimes you have to burn everything down to build something better. Your mother used to say something similar. He touched the folder. There's something else. About Adam's father. I know. At his surprised look, I continued. I've had access to all the evidence for months, Dad. Everything Evelyn did, everyone she hurt. That's why I made sure the investigators found it all. You could have exposed her immediately. Why wait? Because quick revenge is just violence. But patience, I smiled. Patience is justice. My phone buzzed again, Michael this time. After his betrayal, I'd kept his number only to track his movements. His message was simple. You won. Completely. I should have picked the right side. I deleted it without responding. The Singapore expansion is exceeding projections, Dad said, changing tactics. But the Home Office has plenty of talented people. I stood, walking to the window, including you. I'm stepping down, Lauren. The board agrees it's time for new leadership. Then find it, but not me. I turned back to him. I built something here, Dad. Something that's mine, not yours or Adam's or Evelyn's. I'm keeping it. He nodded slowly, understanding finally reaching his eyes. You never needed revenge. You needed freedom. Maybe they're the same thing sometimes. Another knock. My assistant with afternoon meetings waiting. Dad stood straightening his tie. Have dinner before I fly back? Next time, I said. I have plans tonight. After he left, I opened my personal email. The message I'd been waiting for had arrived. Confirmation of Adam's father's exhumed autopsy results. One last piece of evidence that would ensure Evelyn's 8 years became 15. I closed the email without forwarding it to the investigators. Some weapons you keep in reserve just in case. Some debts stay on the books, gathering interest. My phone buzzed one final time, a text from an unknown number. I underestimated you. E. I smiled, thinking of Evelyn in her prison cell, finally understanding what real powerlessness felt like. She taught me well in her way. Taught me how to play the long game, how to wait for the perfect moment, how to turn weakness into strength. I deleted her message without responding. Outside my office, my team waited with updates on our latest project. Through the glass, I could see their energy, their drive, their loyalty, earned, not demanded. Sometimes the best revenge isn't destroying your enemies. It's building something they can't touch, becoming someone they can't control, and letting them watch from the sidelines as you thrive without them. I straightened my jacket and opened my office door. Time to get back to work. After all, success is a dish best served daily, with a side of indifference and a view of the future they'll never share.